From the shores of Puget Sound, this is Greener Views, a unique media resource for information, education, consultation, and fun. Greener Views is a part of the Healthy Homecast network and is brought to you exclusively by healthypainting.com and ambrosiadigitalmedia.com. Each episode will introduce and connect you with services, products, practices, organizations, and groups that focus on the health, happiness, safety, well-being, charity, and community of all. Find us on the web at www.greenerviews.net. And now, your host, Daryl Whalen.
Welcome to episode 22 of Greener Views. I'm Daryl Whalen, along with audio engineer Randy Parcel and videographer Michael Schwartz. On our last episode, which was number 21, our show was called Healthy Homecast. And our guest was Sherry Newbold from the Northwest Eco Building Guild and Live, Work, Play, Design, Architecture. Joining us this time around is Tony Freiss, who will be helping us to answer questions such as, how can I keep my technology products updated so they can be viable for a longer period of time? Good question. Where does my e-waste go? Better question. How is it recycled? Great question. How can technology help me live a more sustainable life? Amongst other things. So Greener Views is part of the Healthy Homecast network and is brought to you exclusively by healthypainting.com and ambrosiadigitalmedia.com. How you like that, Michael?
Woohoo!
So anyhow, let's get rolling. Okay, so for those who are listening and have listened before, Tony and I actually started this podcast together about 1 year ago, just over a year ago. I met Tony almost 2 years ago, and he came to my home and worked on my computers and such, and we started to establish a little bit of a repartee, and I told him about this crazy idea I had about this podcast and went over it with him. It's been so long I don't remember all the details, but I got him to agree to give it a try a couple times, and mostly to help me get rolling with it, because I told him I had this grand idea for years, and which is true, but I didn't know how to get it rolling, and so he ended up doing it with me for 21 episodes, almost an entire year. So hello, Tony. Welcome to the show, and thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Daryl, and glad I was able to be a part of the first 21 podcasts, and wish you the best in the future.
Great. Well, let's see. So please tell us, well, we know that your name's Tony Freiss and that you fix computers and that you worked on the podcast or with the podcast. But why don't you tell us a little bit more about who you are? And I know that we didn't want to specifically talk about the PC repair too much, but you might touch on it a little bit. Tell us who you are and what you're representing here today and what it is that you want to talk about.
Well, of course, my name's Anthony Freiss, and I've been in the computer repair technicals consulting industry for quite a long time now. Say a good 10 years plus. Formerly ran a company called Pigeon PC, which will still be sticking around in namesake, and currently heading up a company out of Las Vegas Technical Services, which is soon to be. And basically, what I'm representing today is technology. How can you keep your technology viable, and where does your e-waste go? So that's what we'll be touching on.
Great. So tell us, when did you, so you said you started 10 years ago. What was the motivating factor for getting into, you must have been a young guy that was like a geek, I imagine.
Exactly. I was always a tech geek.
Were you a Star Wars or a Star Trek?
Star Trek.
All righty. I think Randy gives a heads up to that, don't you?
So that might put me a little more into the nerd category. I'm not sure. But anyways, I got into it. I really my first delve into technology was probably back in 1984. Started out with Commodore 64, old 8088 IBM terminal. And I started fiddling with technology over the years. I told myself I was never going to get into computers, but I decided, hey, it's what I'm good at. We'll go ahead and put some schooling into it and degree out in it, and that's how I got into it. That's what I do currently, and I love what I do.
Great. So in relation to yourself and your business, but not specifically just your business or company, what are you most passionate about?
Well, there's a couple things I'm passionate about. I know I've told you over times I'm a huge hot spring enthusiast. I do help out with a couple local hot springs cleanups, the few we do have in Washington State. And being that I'm moving to Nevada soon, I look forward to seeing a lot of new places to go to. And then technology I am passionate about. I'm huge on technology and how it affects the daily life. And my goal is how do I make technology make my life better, and how can I use it to help other people's lives?
Great. And I know that I know that you're great at your technology. I know that you're a very giving person, and I know that you like music too.
I love music.
Yeah. So what critical areas or problems are there in your service or your area of service that you offer solutions to?
Well, I'm a small business, a micro business at that. And one of the things that a lot of people don't look into is there's so many contractors, so many small businesses like me. And a lot of people tend to look past the little guys and go to the big companies. One thing that us little guys can offer over the, may I say, a big box retailer who offers computer services is we have a tendency to look at what can we reuse, what can we upgrade, what can we do without replacing any hardware, just software, where that retailer, that big reseller, looks more into what can they sell you to upgrade. So I think that's kind of one of the misunderstood things of computer repair. A lot of people just hear a name, and I'm not going to mention names, and it's widely known across the country, so they think maybe that's the best place to take their technology to, which in my personal opinion I don't feel is necessarily true.
I can't imagine. Well, I actually have some pretty good ideas. So what do you have for some advice for somebody that is looking for the type of service that you provide? And like you said, if going at it blind, somebody is likely to not always make like the best decisions. Mm-hmm. So what's some simple, small stuff that you can offer for advice so people don't get stuck or suckered in?
Well, the first thing, and the best I find, is ask friends and family. See if somebody might have a referral of somebody who's done work for them in the past and has had a really good relationship with that individual. I think that's point A. Point B is take a look. Do Google search. Do computer repair and name your city, or computer consulting and whatever city that may be, and look up some reviews. See what people may have had to say about the company or the individual doing the repairs. And another thing to look for is, does that company offer a flat rate? So let's say your computer has a virus and you need it removed. Are they going to charge you on an hourly basis, or are they going to charge you a flat rate? Hourly can be something that gets a little scary, because next thing you know, 8 hours later, they say you got your virus removed and you're in the hole, $300 when it should have just been a $60, $70 fix. So I think that's something important to look out to too. Just check rates, do a little shopping around, and check reviews.
So let's see. Let's get into the stuff about the technology stuff outside of the PC repair, the stuff that we really like to talk about on
Sure.
Greener Views. I almost called it Healthy Homecast again. On Greener Views. How can I keep my technology products updated so they can be viable for a longer period of time? And before you tell us how, please give us some of your thoughts and maybe even some facts or backgrounds on why that's really such an important question. I think that is, like, in a technology era, I think that's probably one of the most powerful questions that we could address right now.
Well, the biggest thing is a lot of people are influenced into buying new technology, and let's let's just I'm gonna take up a popular phone that came on the market about 5 years ago. Well, I think I can say it for this instance. Let's say you have an iPhone, and we're up to the iPhone 4S now. And we'll go back to the first one. Nothing much has changed. There's been some upgrades in camera and slight upgrades in processor, but that first iPhone can run all the same applications that newest model can. And a lot of people like to have the latest and greatest, but in all reality, marketing is a strong thing. Do you really need to upgrade? Is that technology going to really improve your life that much? In a lot of cases with technology, just the slight performance increases don't make that big of a difference. But through marketing, advertising, and everything, we're told that you got to get the latest and greatest here. Sometimes old technology is perfectly viable in this world. And as I get into case point example, let's say you're an avid web surfer. You visit blogs, you listen to podcasts, you watch some videos on YouTube, maybe play a couple games online. You're not really needing a computer that has a lot of horsepower. That old Pentium 4 desktop that you purchased 8 years ago is still viable to do that type of work. Now, maybe it's really in the past year has really slowed down. What a lot of people don't know, so many times when you install programs and everything, those programs install things into your startups menus, and eventually your computer gets really clogged up, really starts slowing down. So a lot of people automatically think right off bat, well, this thing's getting so slow, I just better get rid of it and go purchase a new machine.
And throw it in the garbage.
You know, and a lot of people do, or as we'll get into this later, or just store it around their house for a long time. But what can be done is you go out and purchase that new computer. Maybe you spend $500 to $1,000, but for possibly anywhere from $50 to $100, you could get that machine cleaned out, tuned up, freshened up, and bring that performance back that you might have had 5 years ago. And it's like getting a whole new computer without even replacing a single hardware component on the whole machine. And there's so many ways to do that. And definitely you can consult with a local professional. Maybe later in the podcast, I'll get into a couple tips that you can use to freshen up your machine too.
Great. And so how do we, so to do this, what you're talking about, isn't that going to make all the companies that make computers and everything go out of business?
Oh, no. Corporate America is one of the biggest abusers of recycling or going through computers fast. Most corporations do basically what's known as a lease on a computer. So they'll get, you know, we'll say it's a company that uses 2,000 computers, which is actually not too big of a company, but every 3 years they get brand new computers, and those old computers are basically sent back to the lease department, and at that point they're either hopefully reused, sent to emerging countries, or put back into the community at low cost. Unfortunately, some of them are sent to landfills too. That's the biggest consumer of your computer systems. I mean, trust me, Dell and IBM aren't going to go out of business if John Doe doesn't buy a new computer every few years. They have plenty of clients to keep them afloat. So,
and isn't it safe to say that if they set it up properly, that they could, you know, that there's other stuff that they could provide, like the motherboards and the different the brains and the guts of the computer, that they can still develop and manufacture and sell those, and still.
Oh yeah, and you know, your computer manufacturers. Let me kind of go into a process. You have a company like Dell, and basically all Dell is like an assembly plant. They just put everything together. That motherboard and that memory is made by a different company. We'll say Kingston makes the memory, the motherboard's made by Asus, you know, and those companies will always make business because you might, and that's another thing that we have to look at with technology upgrades too. Maybe you'll talk to somebody and you do have a 6-year-old computer and you're like, I'd really like to upgrade this to the newest version of Windows. And, you know, somebody like myself might come in and say, well, you know, we can do that, but, you know, we're just going to need to put some new RAM in the computer, and maybe we can find that at a used PC store, such as one locally, RePC or something, for $10-$20, upgrade your RAM, and we should run Windows 7 just fine. So that's another option. And even instead of buying those new products, we're able to recycle through old ones. Or there's a possibility that we may need to buy a new product too. It just all depends on the situation at hand.
So yeah, so how do we as individuals get the big companies develop these computers and stuff to educate and inspire the buying public to make better choices, or is that too much of a utopian dream?
Honestly, I think that's a utopian dream. I wouldn't really see what a major company would have in it for you to tell you not to replace your equipment. Technology is a very fast-paced world. You know that you can go out and spend $2,500 on the top-of-the-line laptop today, and next month it'll be a mid-range laptop. Technology constantly evolves, and a lot of the technology companies, they got a plan how they're going to stay afloat in the future. Does a chip maker like Intel currently have the capability to make a much faster processor than the one they already have on the market? You betcha, but they're not going to release that right away. They're going to stagger the release of the faster processor. So technology will constantly evolve. And it in the marketing sense makes you feel that you have to purchase this new technology to stay current, which, as I said, in a lot of cases, depending on your usage, is a huge myth.
It's always up against the corporation. I'm feeling a little saddened by all that right now. I was wondering if it's how we as individuals can how we can encourage some type of a slowdown of all that madness. But I guess I have to probably talk to my therapist about that one.
Yeah, I think as an individual consumer, you can help slow it down by just making conscious choices. A lot of people have the impulse buy. Computers slowed down. Computer's broke. I'm not going to call a PC guy in to see what's wrong with it. I'll just go schlep down to my nearest retailer and buy a brand new computer. And sometimes you have to just think for a minute and slow down and say, well, what are my options? What can I do? I'm just going to use an example like a car. You go out and purchase a $20,000 car brand new. If that breaks down, maybe right after your warranty expires at 36,000 miles, because you have $20,000 vested and maybe you're still making car payments and everything, you're gonna have that car repaired. People kind of look at computers. Well, the computer only cost me $500, so I'll just go buy a new one. It's not really a major purchase. I mean, and people don't stop and slow down and go, well, maybe I can save a few bucks. And a lot of us too, I want to say this in the local industry, myself included, you can email me and call me, and we'll get into that later. And most of your other independent computer guys, you can call them. And if you are like, my computer's doing this, what can be done to fix it? Usually we can give you a pretty good general idea of what's going on and approximate cost. So that gives you an option to weigh your choices. Maybe it'll be $70 to repair your computer as opposed to going out and spending $500 buying a new one.
That's a great answer. You got a great answer. That's actually the question I'd asked before was kind of along that line. I mean, how do we as individuals get the word out about that reality, that we don't need to always buy new and always be throwing our stuff away, aside from this amazing podcast that we're doing?
The reality of it, I think, and this is my personal belief, is think locally. You gotta think locally. In my industry especially, we are dominated by these huge retailers, which these retailers, because they offer PC repair and consulting in-house, they have an incentive to want to sell you things. They don't want to tell you, oh, gee, here, you got a virus, let me get rid of that. They're like, I wonder if we can get them into buying a new hard drive or even a new computer. We can tell them, oh, this computer's 5 years old. It's just terrible. Look at this one we got on sale for $500. They have a vested interest. And so many people are uncomfortable with technology. They don't understand it. So they will take the advice of an unknown individual. And that's what I'm saying is think local. Get a second opinion. That's the main thing you have to look at. and it doesn't even hurt locally. You can speak to one local computer technician and speak to another and see if there's differentiating opinions on what needs to be done.
I told you about that movie. Did you have a chance to watch that?
I didn't. I've been very busy.
Have you guys seen The Story of Stuff? Yeah, it's extremely amazing. I mean, but the one thing that she talks about, when we had this conversation about this stuff the last couple of days, I kept thinking about that movie, which is, I think it's, 15, 20 million people seeing it. So the truth is people are getting exposed to that mindset, because the one thing that she talks about is exactly what you're offering here as a solution or as an idea, that sometimes it's just a small piece or a small part or a little bit of the guts of the computer that could make it is viable and sometimes almost as fresh as something that's brand new. Mm-hmm. And instead of doing that, because we just to the credit or the lack of credit of the individual, we just don't know. And then we're throwing out our monitor and our keyboard and our tower and all the cords and everything that go with it and all the packaging that comes in. And the truth of the matter is there's an incredibly vibrant, or may not even be as vibrant as it could be, industry out there for just people assisting people and making those better choices and still it's still creating some economy and stuff around it.
It is, and technology supports a pretty good chunk of economy. And even side noting on just upgrading a computer, in my industry, about 90% of the slowdowns of computers that I see aren't necessarily hardware related, are more software related. Just somebody put Windows on their computer in 2005 and just haven't done any maintenance or house cleaning in 5-6 years. And just a little house cleaning can really improve the speed of that computer.
So how much could, say, let's just take that for a second. How much could somebody go and buy something like Windows for? The average person go into and buy a new Windows program for, just like an average home version or something.
Well, let's say you want to upgrade to the newest version of Windows 7. An average person could go in and purchase that for $129. And maybe you're a student in college. There's actually a student discount that you can receive that for, I believe, $39.99, which is an incredible deal. Sometimes that $129 and upgrading the software is well worth it. And I tend to lean towards software upgrades a lot, because a software upgrade, Microsoft is good at keeping versions, aside from Vista, is good at keeping versions of Windows around for quite a long time. I mean, XP came out in 2001, and basically we'll skip Vista, stuck with us until 2010. And, that was a long run for an operating system. And even today, it's still viable, although those supports ending. So that $129 investment, you can pretty much count on lasting you 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, and that's a far cry from having to buy a new $6, $7, $8+ $100 computer.
Mm-hmm. In a lot of cases, people with that 5 or 6 year old computer, all they need is, again, and we're just going to say we're going to purchase this used, but a $10 to $20 RAM upgrade in their computer, and that now their computer is going to run Windows 7 just fine.
Yeah.
And a lot of cases, that's all it is.
Well, let's get the word out. So let's move along here and get into, let's talk about the e-waste.
E-waste.
What is e-waste?
E-waste is anything of electronic nature that is disposed of, either through putting in your garbage can, which you should never do, or bringing it to a recycler. And that can go anywhere from your DVD player down to your computer, to your monitor, to your old CRT television.
So there's basically two options. There's ending up in the garbage, or it's getting recycled. So let's start with the number one thing is ending up in the garbage. It's not that it's at number one, let's hope not, but let's start with that. What happens to something that's thrown in the garbage?
Something that is thrown in the garbage is going to go to wherever your local landfill may be. If you just throw it in your garbage can, and that's where it's going to go. How long it's going to sit there for, years. And much of it is highly toxic to the environment too. Not only is it going to take thousands upon thousands of years to decompose, especially if you have CRT, any of the chemicals based inside, lead, other things, ground seepage, just nasty. But luckily there's plenty of options nationwide that you don't have to throw your electronics in the garbage can.
So, yeah. What about the recycled? How do they recycle e-waste?
Well, recycling can go in many ways. Maybe you have that 5-year-old computer and you bring it in. And then there's ways. Now you can bring it into a e-waste recycler, and they may in turn go ahead and resell that product. Because even though it's a 5-year-old computer, it's still viable to many people.
Obviously doing some kind of upgrades and cleaning it up.
Yeah. Doing some upgrades. And one little side note that I'm going to mention, I know with a lot of my clients, the reason people don't get rid of these old computers is they're afraid of their data. Is it secured? And we'll put this out. Maybe we can add this to the website. But one program, Kill Disk. If you're afraid of your data, look up Kill Disk. It's a program that you install on a CD, run it. It'll wipe out everything to the T. So you know when you donate that computer or recycle it, you don't have to worry about any of your data getting out there. From there, as I said, they'll either resell it or they'll part it out. So they might say, well, you know, the hard drive shot on this, but we can still use the motherboard, we can still use the RAM, and the power supply is still good, and the case, it's made of plastic or aluminum, so we'll recycle that, and we'll try to resell these other components, because, again, they're still viable components to many people. Let's say that's not an option. Let's say you just brought in a brick of a computer. It's a 15-year-old computer, like Windows 98 machine, and it has no life left on it whatsoever. Silicone can be recycled and basically used to make new electronic components. All your connectors in a computer are gold-plated. You know, if we wanted to make money off the gold on our computer, you're going to have to go through a lot of steps, and in the end, it's not going to be worth it. But for a e-waste recycler, they have the technology to remove that gold and actually turn themselves profit off of it. The plastic, of course, aluminum, all that stuff can be recycled. So, and that's most responsible e-waste recyclers will properly handle that and make sure that, although some of it is still put in a landfill, there is certain things that cannot be fully recycled will end up in a landfill, but the general assumption is about 85 to 90% of any electronic device you turn in will be fully recycled.
So why don't you just give us a quick rundown on some of the more prominent or relevant responsible e-waste recyclers, and let's just kind of stick to the Puget Sound area for right now.
Well, I normally hit on Seattle because that's always been my stomping ground. I know I sent you a link. King County has a pretty good list of PC and e-waste, responsible e-waste recyclers all over the county. And for anybody listening outside of King County or Seattle, always check your solid waste division's website or contact whoever handles your solid waste, and they can usually refer you to some resources for that. RePC is a great place to bring computers. They will take basically any electronic device you have and either recycle it or resell it. RePC, why I'm hitting on this too, is also a great place if you need a replacement part for your computer. Why buy brand new when you can buy used and have it work just as good? First of all, you're helping the recycling process. Second of all, you're saving a bundle of money. Another good place to hit is interconnection.org, and this is a local nonprofit based at Fremont Ballard area, and they recycle old computers, but they rehab them, reinstall Windows and other software, and these computers go out to local charities such as City of Seattle Community Technology Centers. They're sent overseas to developing nations, for schools and charities. Some go to AmeriCorps, all sorts of different charities that they go to, and they are a great nonprofit, and anybody who might be listening to this has some computer experience too. They're always looking for volunteers to help rehab these machines. And you can drop off locally. Also, if you're a small business or even a mid-sized or large business, if you're listening to us today too, they'll do free pickups in the area on computers too. So
sweet. Did you talk about Take It Back?
Take It Back is the King County resource for
great.
E-waste recycling, and it's a very definitive list. Chances are that you will have an e-waste recycling in less than 10 miles from your home.
So can you tell us real briefly, so just to give somebody an idea, where not being responsible and not recycling and not reusing, give us just a quick little glimpse into the not so pretty world of negative e-waste, where it ends up?
Well, aside from our local landfills, there's been a slew, and it's been an issue. There's been a lot of startups and other companies who have recycled e-waste, and there's a lot of valuable components in e-waste that people like to profit on. But how can you capitalize on profits and, take the stuff? A lot of these companies were taking the waste, grabbing what was valuable out of that e-waste, shipping it overseas. Certain countries, Pakistan, China, just have these huge toxic electronic dumps because, again, it's kind of companies taking advantage of these developing nations. Hey, we'll pay you some money if we can dump all this toxic waste on your land. And it's unfortunately, it's a business on both sides, but in a lot of cases, if not properly done, that's very, very good chance. And I know personally, I'm not going to admit to something I haven't done. Back before we had e-waste recycling, I remember back when I was a kid, well, shoot, that VCR is done for. What should I do with it?
Bury it behind the
garage. Throw it in the trash. And that's what we did, because back then there was no recycling programs. We didn't know any better. So chances are is pretty much everybody listening to this show, one of their old electronic devices is probably sitting in one of these dumps somewhere in the world.
Yeah, we ought to have some. Thanks. I wanted to get that out there so that way we can encourage ourselves and others to make sure that they look into these e-waste recyclers and reusers and make better choices. I hope to get somebody on in the program in the future that specifically deals with that stuff, because I know a little bit about it from meeting some people, and it's some pretty intense stuff. I don't know, did we touch on the buyback programs?
No, let's talk about that. Buyback programs, and I'm just going to name a couple right off bat. Amazon Electronics Trade-In and the eBay Instant Sale. This is kind of surprising. So maybe you have a laptop that's a few years old, or an old cell phone, might be a few years old. You might actually be able to get money for that product and keep it recycled. I know I'm just going to use an example. I talked about this. I had a BlackBerry Pearl, which is a pretty old cell phone. It's about 5 years old. I was actually surprised with Amazon. I got $15 for it. And it was a $15 Amazon.com gift card, but it was an opportunity to get rid of that old electronic. And essentially what they do is you go in, I'm just going to say that you have an old iPod, like a second generation iPod or something. And now that you got your iPhone, you don't need it anymore. So you go on and put it up. You get an approximate description. What condition is it in? Is it scratched up, beat up, or is it pretty clean? And they'll say, well, I'll give you $40 for that iPod. And then you're like, oh, okay. They'll send you a box. You put the iPod in it, send it back to them. And as long as you were truthful and gave them a pretty accurate description of the condition, next thing you know, you'll have a $40 PayPal credit, maybe in one sense, or a $40 Amazon gift card that you can use. So it's definitely, if you have some outdated but recent technology, that's always an option. And that way that technology is just going to get resold and reused. Great.
And we're talking to Tony Freiss here about all kinds of stuff. And this is episode 22 of Greener Views. So let's get into the big question that's got me wondering if there's even a real answer to this. How can technology help me live a more sustainable life? Isn't that sort of a contradiction?
It is, but it isn't. Technology has reduced so many things. A lot of you listening to the show may have paperless billing now. Instead of your cell phone bill or your credit card statement or your bank statement coming in the mail every month, you're just getting it wirelessly transmitted. Pretty much all major utilities and credit card companies and banks offer this. If you don't currently have it, you can sign up. It's a convenient way. I use it on all my utilities. City of Seattle, City Light has it. Comcast, Quest, or should I say CenturyLink. Capital One, Seattle Metropolitan Credit Union. Almost all banks have it. It's a great way.
This is
it's
like
just
a corporate roll call there.
I'm just naming off some names that I know of for sure. They'll offer it, and it's less mail that you have to deal with. And unfortunately, there's still no way to stop all the junk mail, but one of these days we'll work on that. Another thing, and I know we touched on this maybe we touched on one of the prior podcasts with a guest, but there's a thing that you can get if you're in Seattle. You can get it from your local library. And possibly, I know a lot of other libraries across the country offer this too. There's a device called a kilowatt. And kilowatt's kind of a nifty little device because it gives you insight to what your power consumption is. You know, how much does that cell phone charger that you leave plugged into the wall when you're not charging your cell phone? We call it vampire power. It's still draining power, even though you don't know it. But the cool thing is with the kilowatts, you can kind of gauge how much power that's using. What about when my computer goes to sleep? How much power does it still use? Is it viable for me to turn that machine off every night? I actually had one recently a few months ago, and the biggest shock to me, it's really fun to go around your house and see what devices are using power and what you may want to limit your use on. The microwave.
Television.
Microwave was a huge shock.
Yeah, television's really big too.
Here's a little myth I want to go on television. So a lot of people thought when the LCD and plasma TVs came out, they thought, well, I'm just going to hit on LCD because plasma is different, but
they thought it was going to be an energy saver. It's like
what
really
an energy saver, but
suck.
that LCD TV actually uses more power than your CRT television indoor monitor used to use, because the difference is it has a backlight that's on consistently and actually drains power. A 46-inch LCD TV uses something 230 watts, whereas a 32-inch CRT uses about 160 watts.
Yeah.
Your microwave, though, if you got an 1100-watt microwave and you turn that puppy on, you can watch that kilowatt just hit 1100 watts, and it just it's amazing. So that's a good way to tell. Another thing to get into that's starting to get more popular and cost effective is what we used to know as wired homes, but now is more of a wireless home. And this is something that used to be thousands and thousands of dollars to get into, but now you can start it out for a couple hundred. You can get devices, power outlets, and different things that can control the lighting in your house more on a timed basis, and you can all do it centrally from your computer. You can even do it on the internet. If maybe you have your lights set to come on at 6 p.m. because that's when you arrive home, but you're working at the office late, not going to be home till 8 or 9, you can just hop on and say, no, don't turn on until 9 o'clock tonight. That's a really great way to actually save power, and it's really cheap and cost effective to do now. You can just buy it a unit at a time, go out, spend $50, get one, get the next. And that can really reduce your power consumption. And I know one of the big things where I'm moving that people have seen the biggest power consumption is if anybody, even in Seattle, if you have a hot tub or a swimming pool, running that pump is very expensive. So being able to control that and turn it on and off at your will, because you only have to run it 4 hours a day, can really keep your power bills down. One other thing I want to get into, technology is always moving. A lot of people know that the tablet craze is out there now. Problem is, with the current market of tablets, you have generally the big players are the iPad and the Android tablets. These aren't a computer. You know, you're still going to have your MacBook or you're still going to have your laptop, because that tablet can't do what that is able to do. Microsoft, in about the next year, is going to be releasing something called Windows 8. You can actually check this out online. And there's going to be a slew of devices, new tablets that are going to be coming out for this. And this is kind of like a standard version of Windows with a tablet interface on top of it. And
so it's going to be more like a computer.
It's going to be a tablet and a computer, so you get the best of both worlds. And these are powerful devices, too. We're talking just as fast as your laptop and desktop. They can be docked, and you can use it with the standard keyboard and monitor. And essentially, it's a device that can replace 3 devices in their home, because a lot of people now, they have a desktop in their home, they have a laptop in their home, they have a tablet in their home, and most of us have a smartphone, too, which is essentially a little mini computer. So we're running around with like 3 or 4 devices, and ultimately, we can bring that down to 1 or 2 in the future. So a lot less purchasing and a lot more consolidation of these devices. So that's something to look forward to in the future. The cool thing about tablets, though, I want to get into this. I own a couple tablets personally, and what they're nice for is we tend to go getting more into this paperless society. Tablets are great. You know, the old day you used to see something like this joke and you wanted to show somebody online, oh, hey, look at this email, this is funny, and you'd print it out and go show them. Such a waste of paper. With tablets, it's great. It's like just running around with a lit up piece of paper. Hey, look at this, pretty cool, take a look. My wife, who loves to cook, she uses it quite frequently for 2 things that she abuses the tablet on. She's huge on ebooks. That's a lot less paper being used. Also, a lot of people don't know, if you go out and buy a tablet, you can usually get pretty much all your books from your local library free of charge. Just a little hint there. And she also uses it for recipes. You can bring the tablet in the kitchen and check your recipe. Why print it out when you just have it right there? It's just a lot less use and waste on a device like that over time. Cool.
Well, we'll move on. I'm a little skeptical of that one, but
yeah.
So let's get into something a little bit more here, a little bit more
Sure.
of the what Michael calls the granola. We like to call the hippy dippy here. Outside of your own thing, of course, and some of the stuff that we have brought up so far, which you can certainly touch back on, but what groups or organizations do you proudly support? Are you affiliated with? And if so, any specific way to contact them that we can shout out on the podcast?
I think the first one that I want to bring up that everybody should check out, interconnection.org. Great program. Take a look at their website, especially if you have an old device that needs to get recycled or reused and you want to get a nice tax credit out of it too. Great thing, Neighborhood House, which is a local charity group. I've taught a couple classes with them over the past. Great local organization to support. And those are the main 2 that I work with. I don't even want to name the rest because I could be here all night.
No, I'm sure.
Mainly technology related.
Yeah. So who or what or both has had the greatest impact on your life and has influenced your successes and the person that you are today?
You know, I kind of want to put this out to a lot of my family members. My business motto, at least with Pigeon Point, and I'm going to carry it over to Las Vegas, has always been honest work at an honest price. I think the computer industry, just like the auto repair industry, lacks a lot of honesty within it, and that's something that I pride myself in. Thankfully, to a lot of my loved ones, that those values were instilled upon me, so that really shaped me for who I am today.
And I know how I know you working on my computer and stuff, and how I met you and stuff. I know that you're the real deal, man. I love it. I love you and I love it. So without regard to subject matter, is there a few authors or books that have been inspirational to you throughout your life?
Tech books, and I don't even want to get into them. There's been so much, but maybe I want to hit on a couple websites.
Okay, that's fine.
There's a lot of great websites that have helped me out of what to do and what not to do in life and consumerism. Consumerist.org. Check it out. Great website. You want to keep up with the latest technology, and actually this is a good website too because they do spotlight some new green technology that's coming up at Engadget, which is an online blog. Wonderful thing to check out and read up on the latest and greatest and what's coming out, and maybe why you should save your money and hold on to that computer for another 5 years because something really cool is going to be out there then. So keeps you informed.
Great. Let's see. So let's see. How do people contact you? I know that you're moving, but one of the things about your business is that you can do a lot of the stuff remotely, and I also know that you're always available through maybe email or texting or whatever to contact you for questions and stuff.
Well, let me touch on a few things.
Sure.
Number is to be determined down in Las Vegas, but currently you can reach me on my business line at 206-651-4640. But the best way to contact me, if any listeners have some general questions, would be by email, which I'm going to give you 2 email addresses here just to make things complicated. The first one is anthony.freiss, and that's F as in Frank, R-E-I-S-S as in Sam, at Pigeon Point PC, which would be the current way. I also am taking emails, tony@lasvegastech.net. Or you can visit my websites, which will be coming up eventually. I'm still working on it, but lasvegastech.net.
Great. Let's see. So do you have any present or upcoming events or specials or information that you want us to put a shout out on right now?
Well,
or something that you can offer exclusively to our listeners?
For any listeners that would like to employ my services, any Seattle listener, remote services generally are a very easy way to go. I'm offering basically 25% off to all listeners of the podcast for my services. So
sweet. Can't beat that.
And also on an added note,
great.
Questions are 100% free.
100%
for
free.
listeners.
It's a complete total discount.
If you have a question about if you should upgrade your computer or maybe where you should recycle your product or what should be done with it, feel free to drop me an email. It's always 100% free, and I'll answer those as soon as I have the availability to do so.
Now, there's a lot of stuff about Tony that we've talked about over the last, about a year and a half ago. Or it's been definitely over the last year, but longer that we hadn't had the opportunity to get into. I would think we could probably talk for quite a long time. That I would encourage people to contact him about, or even you can even contact me and we can talk about some of that stuff, and then I can get in touch with him about it because I know that he's the real deal when it comes to this stuff. So, but before we go, do you have any wise advice or helpful hints or last words you could share with us?
The most wise advice with technology: do not use your impulse buying to purchase new products. Look into your options. Chances are that computer that you think is done for still has some life left in it. And always weigh your options.
Great. So is there anything else that you wanted to say, or?
I believe that's it.
And how about you guys? You guys got anything that you need to ask or put out there before we wrap it up? Super. So you've been listening to episode 22 of Greener Views. We'd like to thank this episode's guest, Tony Freiss, for joining us. Thanks, Tony. On our next show, episode 23, we will meet and talk with Kevin Moen, a solar design consultant with useyourroof.com, somebody that Michael knows, about solar and living roofs, amongst other things, I'm sure.
And this is so exciting for me moving down to Las Vegas.
You're going to get plenty of solar down there. On behalf of myself, Daryl Whalen, and our crew, our posse, Randy Parcel and Michael Schwartz, we would like to say thank you. Check out Michael at ambrosiadigitalmedia.com. Please check out greenerviews.net and youtube.com/greenerviews for our episodes, and look for more information over the coming weeks. Be sure to email us at info@greenerviews.net or call 206-650-4587. We'd love to hear your thoughts on ideal guests and topics for the show. And lastly, Greener Views is a part of the Healthy Homecast Network. So please go check out the other like-minded podcasts and businesses over at healthyhomecast.com. And don't be surprised if you find me at all of them. The music was written for today's episode, performed and provided by John Henry Scully from the band Slap, Dan Fagens and that's slapjazz.com, Dan Fagens at danfagens.com, and JD Hobson at jdhobson.com. So that's it. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. Greener Views is part of the Healthy Homecast Network. Check out all their conscientious and sustainably focused podcast programs and businesses at healthyhomecast.com. Greener Views is created, developed, and produced by Daryl Whalen. Our audio engineer is Randy Parcel. Our video engineer is Michael Schwartz of AmbrosiaDigitalMedia.com. Music for this episode was provided by SlapJazz.com, DanFagens.com, and JDHobson.com. Your feedback is important. Please feel free to contact us with any comments or questions, including suggestions for guests and program topics. You can call us at 206-650-4587 or send a direct email to info@greenerviews.net. Be sure to check back often. New episodes coming soon.